All right. So welcome to, I believe this is class 2 of your training, your applicant training. So again, guys, my name is Chris Petrone. Greg introduced me on that very first intro meeting, but I'm an official with DLOA. I've been reffing with DLOA for 13, I think this is my 13th or 14th season. Prior to that, I coached just about every grade level, K to 12. Played up in Pennsylvania, Ridley High School in Delaware County, played for Washington College. And so once we moved to Delaware in 2012, figured I'd try my hand at officiating with a 10-month-old. And so couldn't coach at the time because of time commitments and things. So took up officiating and been doing it ever since. And really happy to be here with you all tonight to talk a little bit about my perspective on good old Rule 4, and by all means, answer any questions you have. So if you have something that I'm either not describing well enough, or if you have questions that pop up, please stop me and ask them, and we'll get through Rule 4 together. As I mentioned earlier to some of the guys that were on, this is a long rule in the book. It's like 1/3 of the book is Rule 4, and it just goes over the flow of the game, right? From start to finish, what the game looks like, actually before start to finish. And so we'll go through that tonight. There are 3 different PowerPoints we'll work through, and we'll have some fun with some videos and stuff. So buckle up. Here we go. All right. So a lot to cover. Again, Rule 4 is pretty comprehensive. It covers a ton of information. The best way to learn it is to do these courses, right? Listen to Greg and I and these PowerPoints, but by all means, read through the book as much as possible. If you're planning to do the spring, just start looking at it in your spare time, before bed, whatever. Don't read through it just to read through it. Read through it with some purpose so that you understand what you're reading. Make notes in the book, right? So I always have a pen with my book, and I'm constantly making notes inside the book. And those notes I'll either transfer book to book, year to year, or go through it again and start fresh. That's what I did this year. I haven't looked at the old book to bring the last year's notes in. But we're going to keep this moving, just like you should keep the game moving. Why is flow important? You know this. Some of you have coached, some of you have played. You know when a game is just slow and boring, things aren't going well. The more we can move the game along, the more entertaining it is for those in the crowd, but the more fun it is for the guys on the field. And so keeping the flow of the game moving, making sure it's not taking too long. Everyone's having fun. Everyone's being safe. Greg has mentioned this before. We're the 3rd team on the field. And just like practice is important to a team, pre-game is super important to officials. And so you'll experience this with your crewmates, crew chief. Once you get some games, you just talk about things that you want to make sure you're doing right, on the same page for during the game, those kinds of things. And it starts with emails and texts like days before the game. So if you're doing games this spring, you'll get on the arbiter, and you'll see that you're working with me or somebody else. In a couple days, you'll start to hear from the crew chief a couple days out saying, like, guys, just confirming everything. They'll confirm with the AD. As far as I know, none of you will be referees or the crew chief right from the get-go. But there's some things, some responsibilities that come along with being the R. And so you'll experience that once you get going. Not a lot to stress about now. So what we're trying to do here is have consistency. Greg's talks about it, and every one of our association meetings is trying to get every member of the DLOA on the same page so that we are consistent on the field. We need to have our rules and mechanics knowledge. You'll get the rules by studying the book, listening to these courses or these classes every Tuesday night, and then that on-field training. You'll get the mechanics and stuff up at Chase, I think it is, in a couple weeks. And then when you get on the field at those play days in early March. It's about teamwork, right? We have to be together with our partners. If you're not in sync with your partner, you don't trust them, it's the game is going to be terrible for you. It's going to be terrible for your partner, but it's also going to be terrible for the kids and coaches and the fans, parents, whatever. And it's just going to not end well for everyone. So make sure you have that level of trust, and communication is key. We do, within our association, communication very well, from texts before the game to pregame to on-field to post-game to our association meetings. We are very good. I have nothing to compare it to. I have never officiated for another association, but we do a really nice job of communication. And so, make sure that you're not shy around the rest of the crew. Make sure you're having that open communication. And you'll get a handle on that once you get on the field and you start to do some of that field training. Just watching, right? Eye contact, seeing your partner, hearing your partner, watching their signals, that kind of thing. It's super important. So we always talk about hustle, right? These high school games, the kids are tired. Sometimes they're at night. You're tired after a day of work, whatever. We want to make sure that we move the game along. And so we'll show you some videos. We'll talk a little bit about hustle versus no hustle. You can see a spreadsheet there of how long a game should take in theory. If you're hustling, it should take about an hour and 15, 20 minutes. Hour and a half is probably more realistic, depending on timeouts and those kinds of things, injuries. If you're pushing beyond an hour and a half, hour 40, hour 45 into 2 hours, that is a terrible situation, and things should be moving much faster. Pre-game sets the tone for how you and your partners, depending on how many are in your crew, will work throughout the game. So you'll get together in the parking lot, talk about some situations, talk about teams, whatever that case may be. The R will lead that conversation. You as new officials, don't worry about that yet. Just follow their lead, have a discussion, have a conversation, and you'll get a feeling of what a pregame should feel like. So once we get on the field, we're meeting the coaches, we're certifying them. We have crew cards. Again, you don't have to worry about those in your first year. The R's will take care of that. You'll see, get a handle on what that looks like. We'll talk to the captains. We'll do the coin toss. You've been a part of that if you've played, potentially. Talking to the substitution coaches. I don't do that a lot. Greg encourages it. Some of these guys, some of these coaches you get to know and you know pretty well, and you have that sort of rapport with them. But talking to the substitution coaches, the guys at the box, are really important because they're controlling the flow of the game almost as much as you are. And so setting expectations, talking about, keeping the guys behind the cones, behind the lines, back off the sideline, out of the box, those kinds of things. Meeting the table personnel, super important, right? There at the table will be typically the person running the scoreboard, some scores, having the book or whatever, and then your timer, someone running the timer. Super important to get to know them, treat them as equals, because they are very important to the flow of the game as well. You want to have them be comfortable. You want them to be comfortable asking questions of you if something just doesn't seem right, or if coaches are yelling at them, which is absolute terrible. I always tell my table personnel, if you have any problems, if coaches are giving you any trouble, you call me over immediately and I'll take care of it. Most of the time, the table personnel are high school students, typically high school girls. Particularly in the beginning of the season, they might be super nervous. They've never done this before. So you want to make them comfortable and build that rapport with them. I've worked with some of these students multiple years. You see them sort of grow through their high school years. It's kind of cool. And they get to know you, and it's a good working relationship. Making sure the field is ready for play, making sure the pylons or cones are in the right spot, making sure the field is safe. There's not a soccer goal or something in the way, a field hockey goal, making sure that everything is clear so that when you start the game, no one's going to get hurt on that field. And then finally, starting that lineup. You've seen this, you know what this looks like, and we'll go through it later. But you'll definitely experience it. And once you do a couple, it's muscle memory. Managing the tempo. We'll talk about how this works with your teammate, your crewmates and things, and how to keep things moving. So after a goal, this can actually really make or break the length of the game. And you'll see why in a few seconds. So signaling the goal, right? Hands up, nice and tall. Retrieve the ball from, usually the goalies are good about grabbing the ball and handing it to you. Sometimes they're angry or they'll go out and talk to their defense and the ball's still stuck in the net. You just climb in there, grab it, and jog back up to the center X. In a 3-person crew, the person that's taking the ball out of the goal or from the goalie is the next one doing the face-off. So you want to make sure you're jogging back up to the face-off X. In a 2-person crew, you usually either hand the ball off or give it a little toss to your partner who will have the face-off up to the X. But you don't want to walk. It just gives a bad impression. It looks lazy. It looks crappy. So make sure that you are jogging to the center X. Dead ball officiating. Right after that goal, the defense is going to be angry. The goalie is going to be mad because something fell apart in their defense. And so this is when things can get a little dicey. So after a goal, you want to make sure you're watching what's going on between the players, making sure no one's getting in each other's faces, no one's talking trash. Separate when needed. Put your body in between guys if you need to, so that they're not jawing at each other. Recording the score, so we do have to record it on our cards or in our books, however you want to work it. And then when the coast is clear, when things look like they're settled, you're ready to start the face-off. You jot down on your card the number of the goal scorer and ready to move on. The non-face-off official, this is going to be in a 2-person crew. It'll be someone either on the wing, probably on the wing. In a 3-person crew, it's guys on both wings. You want to make sure if the field's not set, not ready to go, that hand is straight up in the air so that the person that's running the face-off knows full well it is not time to start yet. Once you're ready to go, you'll give the signal, which is pointing at the goal that you will cover when you are lead, pointing that direction, and that tells the official or the face-off official that we're ready to go. All right, so here's a video. Hopefully you can see these. Let me know, say something if you cannot see this, please. It doesn't work right. You shouldn't need sound for this one. So you see his partner threw him the ball. He sort of dropped it. And not coming down on this guy. It looks like a cold day, but he's walking in the middle. And if you notice, the 2 face-off guys are also walking, right? They're going to read his body language and say, oh, this guy's walking. I don't need to hustle. And you can see just how slow this comes together. All right. This guy on the wing is walking, number 7 here. Everyone's sort of just taking it too casually. We want to make sure that we're hustling, right? Sometimes you drop a ball, it happens. Pick it up, jog it on into the middle, set your timer, whatever you need to do, and away we go. So, yep. Restarting after a foul. So, goal, we did. Now we'll concentrate on fouls. Make the call and get started, right? Coaches will have questions. That's fine. You can answer questions as long as they're not yelling at you. Say, hey, what did you do wrong? What was the call? You can explain it. It's in their rights to know what happened, to be clear on what happened. So you report the penalty to the table. And I don't know what Greg has gone over yet, but we use the acronym C-NOTE. C as in Chris, N-O-T-E, C-NOTE. And that stands for color, right? The color of the player that committed the foul, the number of the person that committed the foul, the offense, what they did wrong, the time served, and then any explanation. So C-NOTE. So it'll look like something like blue, 2, right? Technical foul, 30-second hold. And if the coach has a question, you answer the question. Particularly in the beginning of the season, you want to make sure those table staff know what the heck you're talking about, right? 30-second penalty, 1-minute penalty. And sometimes even ask them to repeat it back. Like, you got that? You sure we're good to go? You can repeat yourself a couple times with the call if need be. You want to make sure that they get it right, because if they put someone in for 30 seconds and it should have been a minute, the one coach will be very happy. The other coach is going to be fired up. And so make sure the table knows what the call is. And a lot of the table staff will write down the penalties. And so they're going to want to know, like, what did he say? A slash? What the heck is a slash, right? So make sure the table knows what's going on. While you are getting that reported, or if your partner is reporting it, the other person on a 2-person crew or in a 3-person crew needs to be making sure the field is set up. That means flags are picked up, the players are in position. The start is ready to go. Ball is in a good spot. If you need to hold the ball, or hand it off to an attackman or whatever who's ready to start in the alley, so that when that person that's reporting the penalty comes back to the field, you're ready to go. It's not like I just reported the penalty and now I got to go find the ball and I got to give it to a person to start. No, all that should be done in synchronization, right? So if somebody's reporting the penalty, the other person's getting the field ready to go. And make sure, it's just a courtesy. Usually the goalie knows where the heck the ball is, but hey, goalie, ball's top right. Hey, goalie, ball's bottom left, right? Make sure the goalie knows where it is. It builds goodwill, and it just looks better, right? So make sure all that stuff is done. And again, once you're on the field, it'll make more sense. So here is a proper restart after a foul on 3-person mechanics. I don't know how Greg and JP are going to run you guys this year, whether you're going to be in 2-person or 3-person, but this is an example of a 3-person crew after a foul. So you can see the gentleman with the dark hair was most likely the one that reported it to the table, right? He's got his hand up. He's ready to go. We have our lead down here on the left. He's ready to go. And then the single side on the far side, he whistles it in, ready to go, right? So while the dark-haired gentleman is reporting the foul, the other two are making sure flags are picked up, getting the ball where it needs to be, making sure the goalie knows where it is, and you're going, all right? And this is just a demonstration that I really hope my partner's getting the field ready so that when I turn around after I report this foul, we're going. And I know we have a couple coaches in the crowd, and that's okay. Honestly, the sooner you can get play going, the less questions you might get, the less hassle you might get. Because while that ball's dead, that coach has an opportunity to bend your ear, right? He's going to want to know stuff. He's yelling at you. There's a terrible call, whatever the case may be. The sooner you can get back on the field and go, the coach then switches from yelling at you mode to back to yelling at his players mode and coaching. And so we want to move that transition as fast as possible. All right, so here's a quick restart. 3-person, so goalie makes a save. There's some sort of call, so we have a dead ball. Must have been in the crease or something, or an interference. So official brings the ball up. He's running, right? And look at all the players. They're going to start really see him running, and so the other guys are going to start running because they know as soon as that official gets to the midfield, he's going to hand that ball over, and play is going to start, right? It just sets the tone throughout the whole game if you're hustling. So keep that in mind. All right. Out of bounds restarts. A lot of college ball filters its way down to high school and youth ball. Guys see on the TV these college kids with a running start. They want to go, right? And everyone wants the game to start and go. At high school level and middle school, youth level, whatever, we're not starting on the run. We want to make the guys don't have to be totally stationary, but they can't be walking quickly, running from where the ball is going to restart. All right. They should be stationary, ideally. Use your judgment, and you'll see this on the field. It'll make more sense in that guy picks up the ball. As soon as you see your partner's ready, he'll give you the go sign. You're blowing it in. We're going. All right. Now, if I'm looking for my partner because he's got to get in position and this kid takes off, now I have to blow the whistle. I got to bring him back. He's going to get angry. The coach is going to get angry. Oh, fast restart. No. Make sure he's stationary and then send him. If you are on the bench side of the field in that box area, move the player onto the field about 5 yards. And this just clears up any issues with people subbing on the fly so that ball carrier has a clean space to get going and isn't going to get checked illegally, that kind of thing. In high school ball, NFHS rules, we do give the goalie 5 seconds to get back to start their return to the crease. Now, that goalie decides to go coast to coast. He goes all the way down and shoots on goal. he's still getting 5 seconds. Like, we can give that courtesy of 5 seconds. I'm not going to wait till he's back in the goal because that'll be another 10, 15 seconds. I'm counting 5 and we're going. That happens very rarely. More likely, the goalie chases the shot on the end line. He's out of position. We're giving him 5 seconds to get back in. And you can do a visible 5, 1, 2. Some coaches don't like this for whatever reason. They want to start the game up. Their guy's ready to go. Their attackman's ready to go on the end line. And they'll yell, like, Coach, he gets 5 seconds. If he gives me any more trouble, I'm going to say, Coach, I do the same thing for your goalie, right? And just quiet him down. Keepers get 5 seconds to get back into their crease. Offensive players. This rule changed a couple years ago. Some still don't understand it. You don't see it a ton, but it does happen. Offensive players, sorry, not this one, the next one. Offensive players must be more than 5 yards apart. You can't have your buddy standing right next to you while you have the ball, right? Get out of here. No hidden ball trick right from the start, whatever. So offensive players, my teammates got to be 5 yards away. The next one is one that was installed a couple years ago. Defensive players, they don't need to be 5 yards anymore, okay? So if I have the ball, my defenseman can be right here, right next to me, okay? What has to happen once that whistle blows is he's got to allow me a path to the goal, but he also has to establish 5 yards before he can play me. Okay, so if we're standing here shoulder to shoulder, official blows the whistle, I start running, he's going to wait till he establishes 5 yards, and then he's going to try to catch up to me. He can run ahead of me 5 yards and then come back and play me. He can run out to the side 5 yards and come back and play me. But if we're running shoulder to shoulder and he starts playing me right at the whistle, that's a flag down, technical foul, 30-second illegal procedure. It used to be called delay a game. They changed that this year in this year's rule book. It's now illegal procedure. Okay, and I'll show you that in a second in a video, not a video, but a animation in a second. They can be penalized if they don't establish 5 yards. And timeouts along end line start inside box. Yeah. So if there's a timeout on the end line, it starts inside the box. The only time that the ball starts inside the box on offense is after a timeout. That's a tough one. It doesn't sink in until you actually do it a couple of times. But a lot of times teams will call a timeout and start the play, construct a play based on the fact that that ball is on the end line. And so if you all of a sudden move them out to the alley, sort of blows up the play. So on timeouts, on the end line, ball starts right where it finished before the timeout. Where is that animation? It must be coming up. Inbounds restarts, quick restarts allowed from inbounds. So quick doesn't mean running, doesn't mean not ready. It just means quick. We're not delaying things. As soon as the guy picks up the ball, the field is set, my partner's set, I'm blowing it in. Play on fouls. We get a lot of those, particularly in some of our lower level teams in high school, middle school, those kinds of things. Play ons should be real short. If there is an infraction that causes a play on around here, put your hand up, play on, and blow it dead unless that kid is going to pick up the ball and run straight to the goal. Just call it dead, because only bad things will continue to happen if that ball stays on the ground. So play on, blow the whistle, guy picks it up, he's ready to go, my partner and I are ready to go, boom, we start. Give 5, we talked about that, offensive player. This is the same thing, isn't it? Can be penalized. Yeah, offense restarts must be outside the box. Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing. Again, a lot of you played, a lot of you coached. You see the game very different way when you're on the official side. And it'll actually make a lot more sense to you than maybe it did when you were playing or you were a coach. And so you'll see this on the field. It's not rocket science. All right. Following either quick restart. Offense is 5 yards away. Defense is 5 yards away or clear path to goal. And we have to make that call, right? And when you see it the first time, second time, third time, it's like, did that happen? Did that happen? Should I call it? Yes, right? We have to make that call because it is a newer rule, but it severely disadvantages the offensive player. And that's what we really need to be thinking about is advantage versus disadvantage. The offensive player is disadvantaged. We need to make that call. So here's the animation I was looking for. So you see the ball is on the end line. This is the L is the lead official. O is offense, D is defense, G is goalie, obviously. So you'll see the O is starting with on the ball on the end line. I hit go, defense plays right away. It's flagged down. I did not make these animations. USA Lacrosse did. So this is a bad. I'll run it again. You can see defense plays them right away. We have to throw that flag. Now, here's the good version. That blue guy juts out, establishes 5 yards. The red guy runs right past the crease into the middle. Not a likely scenario, but that's fine. But he establishes 5 yards and then goes back in and plays. So it's clean. It's good. We're moving on. All right. And please, guys, if you have questions, stop me. We're just going to keep moving here. Restarts in the midline. This can be troublesome at times, right? This is we're watching for over and back. In some cases, the kid will get pushed back over, whatever. Need to be watching that. And this is typically right after a face-off. Something happens in the face-off. We have to restart at the midline. And some things can go hairy here. Guys are all juiced up from the face-off. The face-off guy just got called for a penalty or a infraction, something, and so he's fired up. So we really need to be careful on these post face-off restarts. Let me see here. Yeah, face-off violations, shut down, and man down situation, take away. So here's a bad example. That's a terrible. I don't know what's going on here. There we go. So he plays him right away, flag down. He establishes 5 yards and actually switches the defenseman switch, which is totally fine. And that offensive man gets played. So run that again. Oh boy. Defensive switch, defenseman switch, and we have a good play. You can see the lead official, L is lead, T is trail. He starts real wide. I wouldn't necessarily start that wide on a restart there, but that's fine. But he moves in, right? As that play happens, he moves in. He wants to be right on that goal line extended, just a yard or two off the crease when that ball is up out of play, up in the corner there. All right, good restart from the sideline. Let's watch what these guys do here. So we have Blues carrying the ball. Ball goes out of bounds. All right. White steps back in, establishes stationary, and he goes. Right? He paused. He showed he was ready. He's ready to go, but he's not taking off up the field. This points out that the single side official should be straddling the cone since the ball has not yet crossed midline. So we'll watch that again. Blue makes a bad pass. Goes out of bounds. So right away, this guy who was trail now becomes lead. So he's going to hustle down. The single side is going to blow it in. And he should be moving up a little bit. I see what they're saying. He should be up a little further as the ball is crossing. He's still not there yet. So we want to make sure that we're up at that midline. That single side official has the first count on offsides, which is really hard to do sometimes. But that's where his eyes are. And so he should be up at the midfield line when that happens. Timeouts and restarts. Good chance to talk with your crew, make sure everything's going okay. Talk about where the ball is going to be after a timeout. Making sure everyone knows how many timeouts are left, so everyone will check their cards. Okay, Blues used 1, Reds used 2, so they're out. Blue has 1 left. It's a good opportunity just to catch up, get on the same page, and start clean once the teams break from their huddles. What else? Yeah, this is when we want to start, particularly at the end of the game. This is I see what they're saying. Last 2 minutes and a half, we're looking for stalling, those kinds of things. Overtime face-off, we're talking about a lot of things, making sure everyone's on the same page in terms of who's covering what, who's covering the timing, all those kinds of things. Trail official needs to expect this. Timeouts, right? I have many funny stories about timeouts, but we want to be paying attention. You as coaches that are now on the field in stripes, you as players that are now on the field in stripes, you kind of get a sense of when a timeout's coming. So we want to be listening for it. In our pregame, we're going to talk to coaches. Hey, coach, nice and loud, timeout white, timeout blue, whatever color they're wearing, so that we know who's calling timeout. We know that it's not a play. Those of you that have been around a while, Coach Gilmore at Polytech years ago used to have a play called Turbo. I thought he was going to kill me. I thought he said timeout. And so I called it timeout and essentially blew up his play. And so he was not happy with me, and rightfully so. And so you get around that by asking the coaches nice and loud, timeout blue, so that we can hear it and we'll get you the timeout and everything's clean. So make sure you're listening for it as a trail, especially. And when that coach calls timeout, it takes us a half a second to get our whistle into our mouths or whatever. And so we want to make sure that the ball starts wherever the ball was when he called timeout. It's not where it is when the whistle's blown, but where in the general vicinity of where the ball was when he calls timeout. So that's where the where is important. How many timeouts remain? And hey, at the end of that huddle, they break. Coach, you have one timeout. Coach, you are out of timeouts. No more timeouts. And we get back on the field. And usually they're thankful that usually they know, but they're thankful that you're there telling them. It just establishes that goodwill with coaches that we're trying to maintain. All right, officials timeout. So we can take timeouts on the field, right? When something doesn't look right, when we have a question of our partners, if there's some issue, officials timeouts, say, my time, and go talk to your partner. Figure out what's going on, those kinds of things. Why were penalty flags thrown? Was it where were they in the crease? Those kinds of things. Talking to your partner is one of the most crucial things that you will do in officiating, because it gets you on the same page. It looks good, right? We're having a conversation about what we're going to call to make sure that we're getting it right. And so talk to your partner. Your partner calls you over, you call your partner over, whatever. You meet in the middle. Make sure you're talking about the situation and agreeing that I want a path forward. All right. Make sure you figure out who's reporting it to the coaches and then who's watching the players. Make sure someone is watching the players. And if that means you both are standing shoulder to shoulder facing the field, so be it. Okay. In a 3-person, it's real easy. You got one person facing each way. The whole field is covered. You see everything. Super important to make sure you're watching the field and making sure that the players aren't getting into tomfoolery. All right. Let me see. Yeah. Get it right, right? We don't need to be rushing. We want to take our time, make sure we get it right. Stalling. Get it in, keep it in. Usually, we start it once the ball gets behind the goal. If a savvy team knows that we're going to put it on, right, and they're carrying the ball outside the box on purpose, you can throw that, get it in, right? And then they have 10 seconds to get it in the box. Once they get in the box, it's a keep it in. And, I probably hold that signal longer than most people, but I want to make sure everyone sees it. I want to make sure that they're not going to come back and say, we didn't know. Yep, my hands have been up 10, 15, 20 seconds in some cases. Keep it in, keep it in. And we want to usually do that when the ball is behind the goal. All right. Don't call it in a lopsided game on either team, right? If it's 20-1, stalling is never encouraged, but it's going to happen, and that's okay. We don't want to throw it on either team when it's 20-1. And you'll see this again on the field, but if we know a team is trying to take the air out of the ball, and we know it, it's fine. I usually give them 45, 60 seconds to start to run a play, and in a situation where it's a close game, it's nearing the end of the game, and they're trying to stall. I'll look at the clock once they establish possession down in their end of the field. Look at the clock. Okay, it's 3 minutes left. All right, once we get to 2:15, 2 minutes, I'm going to start thinking about it. And And as long as they're attacking the goal, they're coming at the goal, they're moving the ball, making it look like they're going to take a shot, we're good. If he's holding the ball outside the box and just standing there, that doesn't look as good. We're going to try to move them along. We want to make sure they're attacking the goal in some way. Running dodges, running plays, taking shots, whatever that means. Last 2 minutes, you know this, 4 goals or less differential. The team with the higher number of goals is going to have to keep it in the box the last 2 minutes. And if there's a timeout at 3 minutes and it looks like it's going to be close, just to remind the coaches, hey, coach, 2 minutes, got to keep it in the box. Again, it just establishes that goodwill. It opens up those lines of communication so that when it happens, they're not like, oh, we didn't know. This rule has been in place for years. You absolutely knew. Okay. So just reminding everyone, hey, 2 minutes, got to keep it in the box, that kind of thing. Always be professional. We can't stress this enough. Open those lines of communication, how you are walking on the field, how you look when you walk on the field, how you act when you walk on the field. Are you laughing, joking? Are you pretty serious? You look like you're ready to go. Will go a long way with a lot of these coaches and athletic directors and the players too. Be professional, make sure everything looks good. Respect the coaches. They work hard. I coached, many of you have coached, what goes into that. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of patience. Just like you would respect a coach, hopefully they're respecting the fact that you have put in as an official a lot of hours, a lot of time, patience, learning, those kinds of things. And that street of respect is two-way. Make the big bucks as efficient. Yeah. Let's see what else. Yeah. Anyway, make a mistake. You are going to make a mistake. It's going to happen. It happens. I've done it. You got to tell a coach, I made a mistake. Here's how I'm going to fix it. We're moving on. Okay. Don't dwell on it. Don't put yourself in a position where you spiral out of control because you made a mistake. And I've done it. We've all done it, right? Should have called that. That was dumb. And you're like, all of a sudden you start thinking about that more and more and more, and you're not watching the game. It happens, right? If you make a mistake, or if you blew up a call, you didn't make a call, you made the wrong call, admit it, fix it, do whatever you need to do to fix it, if anything, and forget it. Move on, right? It's one mistake out of a 48-minute game. Done. Let it go. Talk about it in post-game with your partner if you need to. Say, hey, I should have done this. Partner says, yeah, it's no big deal. Make sure you fix it for next time, whatever. Just own it and move on. And you probably won't make that mistake again. All right, so that's the first one. All right, we have 3 PowerPoints. That's the first one down. I'm going to now try to get the second one. Any questions, guys? Please ask questions, especially while I'm trying to maneuver this next one.
Just going back to the time limits, does that include overtime too, or no?
Which time limits? What do you mean?
Like the like when you said a prolonged game is like an hour and 40, but a good game like with time wise is like an hour 18. But is that overtime included? Am I asking?
No. So overtime
that's just regulation.
Just a regular old game. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's overtime. And look, you've all done this. Overtime around here in lacrosse typically doesn't last a long time, right? It's a possession or two usually makes the difference in the game, and so it may add a couple minutes, but it's not going to be drastic. I'm trying to think if I've ever even had a double overtime game, and I don't know that I have. So it's a rarity. And so, so if you get a couple extra minutes, it's fine. Once you are the R in a game, you have to fill out the report. It's real easy. It's a Google form. You fill out who the who the crew was, who the home team was, who the away team was, what the score was, and they ask you for the time. And I guess they run through that, JP and Greg, and then run through the spread, the results, the database, and look, make sure times are pretty within limits. it's all good. If you have a long game, I've done games where it's the one I can think of. It was at Indian River High School. I forget who they were playing, but it was back and forth. Like they would score one, Indian River would score one, the other team would score one. It was back and forth and back and forth. The game ended up being like 19-17 or something. Those games take a long time. Like there's nothing you can do about it. And so you just move. The parts you can control are hustling, right? Okay, they scored another goal, grab the ball, run to that face-off X and start it up. Those back and forth games, they drag on, but it's good. Like you can't fix that. Nothing. You shouldn't be inserting yourself to do anything about the speed of that game because it's just either really good offense or really bad defense, and that's just the way it rolls sometimes. So you should see, and someone just unmute and let me know that you see part 2 on your screen.
Quick question.
Yes, sure.
Last year when I was coaching, we had a couple of overtime games.
Yep.
Middle school level. The middle school games, the referees turned around and said, "There's no overtime in middle school."
Yeah. Yep. So is that the question?
Yeah, like are there time at the middle school level?
There isn't. JV and middle school, there is no overtime. That said, and I'll tell you why that is typically here in Delaware, we don't have a lot of officials. And so typically those officials are moving on to another game, a varsity game, whatever, down the street, up, whatever. And so there just isn't enough time to run an overtime for middle school or JV. There are some cases if the officials don't have to leave right away and you catch them on a good day, they might run a free overtime and say, all right, yep, well, let's go. Let's see what happens. But no, we don't typically do overtime for middle school and JV.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions?
Chris, do they still do the substitution horn on the sidelines?
Say that again?
The substitution horn?
No. So we got rid of the horn a bunch of years ago. So home teams are still required to provide a horn. The only thing that horn is used for is if the table needs to get a hold of us for some reason. And at the end of quarters. So 2 reasons. The horn went away. So substitutions are pretty much all on the fly now. They can happen on dead ball and they're on the fly. There's no stoppage of play for a substitution anymore. So if a team decides to sub on an out of bounds, that's on them to get the guys in and out before the whistle blows. So that's a good question. And you'll hear the horn if there's a question at the table, right? What was that penalty? Or this person has 5 personal foul minutes. He needs to be, he's fouled out, whatever. There's questions at the box. That's what the horn's used for. And then at the end of quarters, which is vitally important because of the whole new shot rule that says a goal will count if a shot is launched before the horn goes off at the end of a quarter. So we'll talk about that. I think we talk about that in a little bit. So you should see part 2. I hope. Let me know if you do not. And face-offs. Now, this is going to be troublesome if you can't actually hear this. So I'm going to start this video. Go ahead.
I'm not seeing anything. I just see it.
I don't see it.
Don't see it. Okay. Give me 1 second. How about now? What do you see?
I got it.
You see it? Perfect. Let me know if you cannot hear this. Can you guys hear that?
No.
That's what I was afraid of.
Sounds
What's that?
Sounds muffled.
Muffled. Well, I can just send you this link. That's not a problem. It's online. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll send you the link to this video, and you just fast forward to the face-off part. I don't think it's very long. It just goes through some rules and stuff. All right, we'll skip that. I'll send you that link. Don't sweat it. Good. Conducting the face-off. You know, as players and coaches, games are made or broken at the face-off X, right? And so we want to make sure that we take our time, that we do this properly so that the face-off happens without any hitches. So a lot of this starts at the pregame when we meet with the face-off players. And if you've coached, you've seen us do this. We'll bring all the face-off guys. I don't care if it's the fifth string face-off guy. We want everybody to come out because you don't know how it's going to play out through the game. All the face-off guys come out. First thing I do is I have them hold the stick with their right hand just like they would in a face-off so that we can establish that different colored tape or that paint between their glove and the head of the stick, right? And so you should be able to see a contrasting color. If their glove is white and their head is white and their shaft is white, I want to see a black, red, blue, green, I don't care, ring around that shaft to show me that their hand isn't on the plastic, right? So we bring them on out and we talk to them about how we're going to run the face-off. This should be consistent across all of our people, and it usually is. We'll talk to them. We'll even get them down, show them what we're talking about. Won't actually run a real face-off, but we'll tell them what we're going to do and then ask for questions and then send them off. So how does the face-off work? Right on that center line there, you see there on the left panel there, the ball. Put the ball down where you're going to want it. This is, it can be tricky on some fields because particularly as the season goes on, the grass is worn away, the turf is worn away. And so sometimes you have to move it around a little bit. There's a mud spot right in the middle, whatever. It doesn't have to be directly in the middle every time. You can move it a little bit this way or that way. Just make sure that if you're going to move it off to the left, you're also moving it off to the right every now and then so that it balances out a little bit. Put the ball down. So I'll tell the guys, particularly on the first one, particularly at the beginning of the season, even though I just told them 20 minutes ago in the pregame, I'm going to tell them again, look, guys, come down together. Don't put any body parts on the ground except for your feet and your hands. Line up your sticks top to stop. Keep everything to the left of the head, et cetera, et cetera. One hand up, one hand down. No more motorcycle grip, right? No more of this. It's got to be one hand up, one hand down. Make sure your hands are on the ground. Make sure your stick is on the ground. Wait for set. We'll vary the cadence. There we go. You can make corrections. And I added this part. I was able to mess with this PowerPoint a little bit, but don't touch the sticks. We used to like physically move sticks. We don't touch the sticks. We don't touch the kids anymore. All right. Say blue, move left, move right, whatever the case may be, so that top of the one stick is lined up with the stop of the other stick. Okay. And it's centered on the ball. Make sure they're standing, the sticks are up straight. Make sure that they're not, leaning over into neutral zone. And again, you'll do this on field. You'll see it 1,000 times. It makes a lot more sense than what I'm explaining right now. Once they're in a good position, and I'll tell them, guys, once I say set, no more moving. Set, make sure that they can hear you. And it's a good thing to ask coaches in the pregame. Hey guys, any players have any hearing needs, hearing difficulties, those kinds of things. We did have a face-off guy a couple years ago, I think it was at Cape, who didn't hear well in his 1 year. And so you had to sort of accommodate that so that he knew what was going on. So say set, no more moving, and then you want to vary that cadence after set between short and long with the whistle. Looking for any movement, those kinds of things. Once there's possession, we say possession. Some say the color. I say possession. We wind our arm nice and big, and we're playing. So it's simple, yet it's got a lot of nuance to it. And so the more you do, the more it'll make sense. And look, I've been doing this 13 years. Some guys have been doing it 20, 25, 30, 40 years. Face-offs are hard. It is a hard thing to officiate because it's close quarters. There's a lot that can go wrong. There's the whole crowd. Everyone is watching that situation in that instant. Okay. So make sure that we're getting it right. And you will do high reps of this at the play days and on-field trainings, those kinds of things. So make sure if there's tips people are throwing out, you're listening to them, because as far as I'm concerned, no one's perfect on face-offs. It is a very hard thing to officiate. So, all right. Legal face-offs, quick visual check. Right. So hands are not on the plastic, right? They have to have that gap in between the glove and the plastic. Fingers are wrapped around the shaft and touching the ground. And some guys will push this limit, right? They'll do some things so that their hand's not fully on the ground. They think it provides extra leverage, whatever. Make sure both hands are on the ground and that stick head is on the ground as well. Sticks up to but not touching the line. Sticks parallel to the line and vertical, right? So one head isn't tilted in, one head isn't tilted back, or they're both facing this straight up and down, top to stop. And then I added this one, everything to the left of the plastic, right? Want everything out of neutral zone. That means knees, right? This red sweatpants knees here. Make sure his knee's not over into the right there. Make sure they're helmets. And I'm constantly separating guys' helmets. Move your helmets out of neutral. And in the beginning, guys, everyone's rusty. So in the beginning of the season, you can take more time to get it right. Towards the end of the season, mid-May, late May, into playoffs, I'm not fixing anybody at that point. They should know. They know how to do a face-off. I might tell them at the very beginning of the game, move left, move right. If you're coming down and you're wrong at the start, we're going the other way. And once they do that, once they lose that ball the first time, it gets fixed magically. All right. Player positioning before face-offs. I want you to take a look at this schematic here. Everybody good? What do you think? You can unmute. Let me know if you think anyone's in the right place, wrong place.
Red's no good.
Which red?
Outside
this guy? All right. So this is a common misconception. As long as all these guys are behind the restraining line, right, the line that crosses the field here, they can be in the alley on a face-off. Absolutely can be in an alley. A lot of times you'll see coaches down here. The coach's box now extends into the restraining box, right? They can talk to their guy right here. So this red guy is not out of position. He's doing nothing illegal. As long as everyone is behind this line. And hey, look, you don't see it much. And when you do see it, you're like, oh crap, is he all right? Is he wrong? I'm telling you now, and I'm making this like a point of my own emphasis, is this is okay. They can put all 7 guys if they want in the alley over here on a face-off. As long as they don't come past the restraining line before possession is called, they can be anywhere in this whole box. All right. I did that on purpose. Very tricky. Questions about that? You don't see it much, like I said, but when you do see it, you're like, you definitely second guess yourself. All right. Face-off violations. A lot of you know these. We don't need to spend a lot of time. Holding. If I clamp first, as soon as that guy tries to clamp on top of me, he's holding, right? End it. Blow the whistle. He's holding. We're going this way. Using the stick or body parts to restrict the other guy's movement. You see this a lot with elbows, sometimes with shoulders, right? They are leaning in to a point where the other guy is pinned. He can't move for some reason. He is being disadvantaged with that hold. You got to call it. And it happens. And these guys are savvy. These face-off guys go to camps. Parents pay a lot of money to become very good at face-offs and very tricky at face-offs. And so they'll test you. So we need to make sure that we're looking for those holds. With holding the ball, I clamp and I keep clamping and I keep clamping. That's withholding the ball. It's too long. He has one sort of fluid motion to clamp and get the ball out. And in that same respect, if he pulls the ball out on the back of his stick, that's fine. But if it's there for more than one step, he's traveling, right? That's withholding the ball. We're going the other way. And it can be a hard thing to see, to catch. But you'll see it and you're like, yeah, that seems like a long time. We're going the other way. Oops, sorry about that. Illegal procedure, delaying position after down, right? So official says down, my opponent goes down and I'm like, oh, he's going to set up that way, so I'm going to set up this way. I come down too slowly, that's illegal procedure. Failure to have contrasting colors between the gloves, shaft, and head, illegal procedure. Improper setup. If he comes down and he's got like his arm down here and he's like not really set up, taking too long, again, you're trying to maximize that flow of the game, illegal procedure. Movement after set, that's an easy one. Oftentimes, one guy will move and the other guy will move, right? And so you need to be careful. You're catching the first guy that moves, not the second guy. And I often tell guys, jokingly, but not really, after I say set, no moving, sneezing, coughing, laughing, anything like that. And that usually lowers the intensity a little bit, gets them thinking, I can't sniff, right? During cold season, guys are like, none of that stuff. Can't do it after I say set. The wing guys move before the whistle. That's an easy one, especially when you have a 3-person crew. Attack or defensive player. I purposely crossed out leaving the box and put instead crossing that defensive line before possession is called. And that brings up another point, possession. Make sure if you are doing a face-off, you're on the field, you understand what denotes possession on a face-off. Because a lot of times guys will call possession if the ball touches the inside of the stick. That is not possession. Possession is defined as being able to cradle, throw, shoot, right? If I have the ball on my stick and I can't really cradle yet, it's just sort of hanging there, that's not possession yet. Just like on NFL, right? If you're catching a ball and he's bobbling or whatever, he doesn't have possession, it's not a completion. Same thing here. If I can't cradle, throw, shoot, whatever, that's not possession. So you want to make sure that person has possession of the ball. Then you call possession. Everyone can come out, cross the defensive line and a restraining line, and we're good. And I'm going to talk about this. If you guys come to the meeting on Sunday, Greg asked me to talk about this kind of thing. And so you'll hear me say things like, sometimes attack and defense, jump the gun. They assume possession. We haven't called possession yet. That's leaving the box early, illegal procedure. They're going to lose the ball. It's imperative that those attackmen and defensemen wait for possession to be called. All right. Unsportsmanlike conduct, 1 minute penalty. Using hands to grab or direct the ball. This is really hard to see sometimes. And it was sort of rampant, particularly down here in southern Delaware a couple years ago. I think it was sort of before I started. Guys were using their hands to push the ball, grab the ball, scoot it back, whatever. Apparently there was somebody locally that was pretty darn good at it without getting caught. So it's something to watch. I don't see it often now. And it's one of those things where if you see it, you're like, did that really just happen? And you have to evaluate in your head, was it purposeful or was it by accident? Because if it's by accident, brush with the ball, it pushes it, it's fine. I think you'll be able to see it after a couple times, whether he was doing it on purpose or whether it was by accident. All right. So we have face-off violation, early movement, and this doesn't need a video, but you guys know what this looks like, right? We've said set. We're not supposed to touch sticks anymore. Yeah, he jumped. The red jumped, right? We can watch that again. So everyone's all fired up. Official says set. And red moves. That's an easy one. And it helps to have multiple sets of eyes on this, right? So if you have a 3-person crew, consider yourself lucky. And because now you have 2 sets of eyes on the face-off, which is great. In a 2-person crew, the one person's looking at the face-off X, but he's all the way out the wing. He can't see microscopic movements like this. All right, what's next? Another early movement. Let's take a look at this one. Set. That little movement that Black did there, I think that's what they're referring to. So he didn't move his stick, but he moved his body. Yeah, he's leaning in there. You got to catch those. We got to have those and make sure they get called, because chances are, depending on what side this is of the field this is happening, both coaches, well, all the coaches on all the teams saw that guy move. And so we want to make sure that we get that call right. All right, next, face-off violation holding. Let's take a look at this one. We have a goal. Let's watch this one. I forget who holds first here. Yeah. Black steps on his stick. I got a little push there at the end there. So they see the clamp happens, and then Black sort of grinds his way over, steps on his stick. We have a hold. Because White bobbled it there, we're going to call the play on, call it dead immediately, because nothing good will happen during that interim. Wait for White to pick it up, and we're going. Another hold. I think this one's on red. No, it's on white. We'll watch this one again. So watch the white guy. He holds. He's got a motorcycle grip, which is now illegal. That's what it was. So he pushes him in the back there, holds him on the backside a little bit, right about there. Yeah, you see it in there. They're hard to see sometimes. Here's a withholding. Let's see what this looks like. So these guys are telling him where to move, put the ball. We don't do that mechanic anymore. Yeah, he holds it on the back of his stick for, I think, 2 or 3 steps. So that's an easy one. Withholding, going the other way. He clamps just a little too long. I think taking his hand off the stick didn't help his cause either. Yeah. And he's gonna be frustrated and say we're crazy. He didn't withhold, but that was pretty obvious. Obvious enough to make a PowerPoint presentation. So the wing players, don't forget about these guys. There's a lot that can happen. It's not a ton, but there's a lot. Make sure they're lined up accordingly. Never call a single guy out if he's over the line. Just say, hey, guys, watch the line. Not, hey, Blue, you're over. Hey, Blue, back up. Guys, watch the line. Tells them both. They both look down. Oh, I'm off. I move back. And then another big one to watch is interference. And oftentimes guys can do this and get away with it a few times, and then it becomes obvious, right? So if, let's say, whistle blows, the guy in dark blue jumps out ahead of the light blue guy and sort of slows down, right, to the point where he is interfering with light blue's advancement into the area. That's an interference call, and we have to have those. They're hard to see. You're thinking about so many other things. Typically, it doesn't happen, but it can happen. So we need to be careful of that. And then the easy one is just watching these guys if they leave early. It's usually obvious. Sometimes it's not, but they know when they screwed that one up. Making sure that these guys come in and are only playing stick. If those guys are still hunched down in the middle, fighting for the clamp, they can't come in and clear somebody out. That used to be legal, right? When I was in high school, we had a guy whose job it was to come in off the line and crush the face-off guy. He was very good at it. And so that's not legal anymore. And so we want to make sure that those wing guys aren't coming in and clearing anybody out, particularly if they're still hunched down. That is really dangerous and really illegal. And then making sure, if they do it, if they're not doing it right, we hit them for whatever the case may be. A hold, unnecessary roughness. And it's not in here, I don't think. But this year's rule book really gets into they emphasized it last year, and they did it again this year, is that initial hit off the face-off whistle at the X. Last year it was in there that they couldn't just, they had to play the ball. That's what it was. They adjusted the language this year to where last year it was said you must play the ball first. This year it says something different. Same general idea. You can't just wait for the whistle and pop the guy. And so make a play for the ball or back out, right? Some guys that just know they're going to lose the face-off will just back out. Like, I know I'm going to lose. Give the guy the ball. I'm going to get back in and play defense. That's fine. We want to make sure that they're not coming through and just popping the guy right from the start. And if they do it, hit them with an unnecessary roughness. We got to take that out of the game because it's just dangerous. My head's down. I'm going for the ball. And this guy comes through and crushes me on the top of my head. There's concussion injuries. There's neck injuries. Like, just, we need to get rid of it. Anything like that with that unnecessary, we're going to think about 2 minutes full time because it is so dangerous. All right, where are we? Going backwards here. Post face-off violations. Once the ball is away, it's treated by any other loose ball, right? So once these guys clamp it, rake it out, everyone's upright, it's just a regular loose ball at this point. The face-off, by definition, is over. Attack and defensive players need to stay behind the restraining line. If they come out, it's an immediate illegal procedure. We're going the other way. If that's the case, they got to get back in the box, right? Any kind of face-off violation or any sort of violation before possession is called, those attackmen and defensemen need to be behind the restraining line on the restart. If you don't give them that, if you don't make them do that, they'll come out and they'll start playing defense, and it takes away that advantage that they had on as a result of the infraction. And so take the extra 3 seconds, everybody back in the box, and then start. All right, loose ball technical foul during face-off. What do we do with the other players? Yeah, so this is a weird animation. I don't love this one. So there's a face-off infraction. We want to say stay in the box, get back in the box, that kind of thing. And yeah, this animation is terrible. And we're going, right? Make sure everybody stays there until the whistle blows. Then they can do whatever they want. And we're going. When do we start a face-off over? It doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen. The ball that goes out of bounds in the midfield, so between the restraining lines, and we have no idea who touched it last. Again, this doesn't happen a whole lot, but it can happen. So somebody clamps, somebody rakes it out, it gets touched. You don't see what happens in between. It goes out of bounds. You don't know who touched it last. It's a reface, right? We're going to face it off again. Ball comes out. An official blows his whistle before it crosses the restraining line, before possession is called. We don't have anyone who has the right to the ball. We have a face-off again. An injury occurs in the middle of the midfield area after a face-off, during a face-off. We reface, simultaneous fouls or of equal duration while the ball is loose. I think he'll talk about simultaneous fouls maybe next week. Officials call timeout before a team actually gains possession. We got to reface that one. Or the ball gets stuck in someone's uniform, right? That's no one's fault. If it goes up the guy's shirt, into a glove, well, that could be dicey. But it goes in a glove, up his uniform, into his shoulder pads. That's not his fault. Get the ball out and reface it. All right. Players in the penalty area. This is, you'll see this. You'll see this a couple times this season. You leave a wing open, right? Someone's in the box. He's over here in the penalty box. White has decided to leave this wing open. As if we have a face-off, as that penalty time is declining, we want to remind everybody, he can't come in until we yell possession. Even if it's 10, 20 seconds long, he's got to stay in there until possession is called, okay? If he releases early, that sets off a whole other thing. There's another 30 seconds added on, etc. And so If penalty time expires, once possession's called, he's released. He can come out. Until possession is called, he's got to stay in that box, even though his time is up. All right. How can we help ourselves as officials define our expectations, right? We talk with the guys before the game. You can talk with the face-off guys during the game. Hey guys, and I'll do this every now and then. If they're doing a nice job, I'll tell them, like, you guys are doing great on these face-offs. Keep it up, right? It just builds that confidence. It builds that rapport. If Blue keeps screwing up and all of a sudden he fixes it, hey Blue, nice job. Thanks for fixing that. Keep up the good work. Just giving these guys a little bit of credit where credit is due. You will talk to these face-off guys. You will be with them a lot throughout the game. You have to build that rapport. We often tell our face-off guys in that pregame meeting, if you have an issue with the other guy, tell me about it. Don't tell your coach, because then we got to get coaches involved, and it's a big thing. Tell me, hey, I think Blue's leaning in a little bit. Okay, I'll watch it on the next one. Thank you for telling me. All right, Blue, don't lean in, and we're going. Now that guy trusts me, right? We've had this communication. We've established that there's an issue. We've addressed it. Hopefully it gets fixed. And again, that idea of quick, but not fast. We want to make sure that things are moving along, but we don't want to rush it. When you rush, that's when bad things can happen. Defining expectations. Again, we cover a lot of stuff in the pregame face-off meeting. Meet with coaches, meet with the players, the face-off guys. If coaches want to come out for the face-off meeting, sure, great. If some attackman wants to come out during a face-off meeting, awesome. Learn about face-offs. Spend a few minutes with these guys. It will pay off a lot during the game. Yep, solving problems before they happen. We just went through all that. Checking sticks, make sure that they know the rules, that tape, gloves, all that stuff. Make sure it's all good to go. And, there's not going to be any surprises. Face-offs aren't about gotchas, right? I'm not going to be like, I got you because you screwed up. We want a nice, clean face-off, get the ball out, and start the play. Discussion downs, top to stop, out of stay out of neutral, parallel, up to the line, not touching it, hands and stick on the ground, no leaning, stick head, no body parts in the ground. They used to be able to come down onto their knees and set up. Not anymore, right? No more knees. You can't have a knee on the ground to set up. You can't have a knee on the ground during the face-off. You're coming down ready to go, right? So no body parts. You can't I got to fix my hands. I'm going to put my elbow down. Nope. You're coming down. The only thing on the ground at any point should be your feet and your gloves. That's it. Tournaments and youth games. A lot of times you won't have this opportunity to meet with the players, particularly those of you that are just going to do summer tournaments and stuff. First game of a Saturday morning, right? Tournament, the team just flew in from California, whatever. They're tired, they're groggy. Get the face-off guys together as fast as you can before the game. Just like, look, guys, here's how we're going to run it. This is what we're going to do. You're used to this. You're face-off professionals. We're going. They know the rules, but they're going to cheat to gain that advantage in some cases. So we just want to make sure, guys, we're watching. We know what we're looking for. You know how to do this properly. Let's have a good game. All right. All right. That's PowerPoint number 2. And the last one is short-ish. If I can get out of here. There we go. Get rid of that. Let's see. Questions? Hit me. Yep.
Something I saw is that once you clamp the ball, did I see that right?
Oh, you're cutting out on me, David. Can you say that again for me?
If you clamp the ball, allowed one step.
Yeah. So once you clamp, and this will happen, right? You clamp the ball, and a guy will look around for his buddy. He's got to get it out in a relatively quick manner, right? And so he can take a step and rake out. That's fine. If he's clamped down and he's looking for Johnny, and Johnny, where the heck is Johnny? Where did Johnny go? Right? 2, 3 seconds. Now we got to get the ball out. If he takes a step and it's a quick step and he's out, go for it. Absolutely.
Something like that. I feel like I don't see called a lot.
What's that?
Like when a guy has a ball clamp, you'll see them circle a couple of steps before they get it out.
Yep.
Like ball a lot.
If it's and it does happen, right? So if he clamps and the other guy's like trying to come underneath, or like they're tied up in a legal way, the clamp can take longer, right? If he's not able to, rake the ball out, you can tell. You can tell when he's just holding on to it to hold on to it versus he's holding on to it because he can't get it out. If I see that he can't get it out because they're tied up, whatever, and everyone's being legal, everyone's doing the right thing, then it's going to play. I've seen a lot of times, David, when they clamp, can you see my hands? Yeah. No one gets the clamp, right? And so the two sticks are not straight up and down. They're leaning together, but they're so strong and equal pressure that neither of them can get the clamp. I've seen that a couple times. And so these two are down trying to vie for that clamp. The other four guys are in waiting. We have one or two officials in there waiting, and we're just waiting. Like there's nothing you can do. You make sure that you put yourself in a position that you can see the hands and the sticks and making sure everybody's doing everything right. But sometimes they're so equally talented and strong that it's literally a stalemate, and you're just waiting for somebody to either max out and like bonk a little bit, or someone overpowers the other guy and they get the clamp and they get the rake out and we're good. It's pretty neat. It's actually very impressive when you see that, because you're looking at two face-off guys that are very talented, very strong, and it's a great matchup. And so you'll see that, and it's kind of cool, but it's kind of stressful at the same time. And so you just, urge these guys, come on guys, let's get it out. And eventually someone will win out, the ball will pop out, and we're going.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, so which one is this? We did that one. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. Gonna get rid of that. And this one's pretty short, so we'll be done soon. Promise. All right, now I need this to go away. Nope. All right. You see part 3? Hopefully you can see part 3. Everybody good? All right, we're going. Part 3, the goal area. Another one, guys. This rule 4 is intense. You have the face-off and you have the goal area. So much is going on in the goal area. It's crazy. This is why 3-person games are so clutch, and this is why we need more officials and we need more schools to allow us to do 3-person games, because so much can happen in this goal area. It's great to have more eyes on it. All right. So it's where the action occurs. It's where things are popping off. People are flying, bodies are flying around, whatever. It's always the responsibility of at least one person in 2-person mechanics or 3-person. And how you deal with the play around the goal is going to, like it says there, set the temperature of the game. If things are heated in around that goal, it's going to carry over to the rest of the field. And so we need to make sure that we are controlling things as best we can around that goal. We'll talk about officials' responsibility in settled situations. We'll talk about the goalie. We'll talk about play around the crease. And a reminder that teams change goals at the end of each quarter. So this is where we trust our partners. This is where communication, eye contact is huge. 3 different positions. I think we're talking about 2 here. One is the lead, right? Indicated by the L. They have the goal. So they're looking at this thing. They have the inline. That box should be all the way across. This is not a good schematic here. The single side. Okay, this is 3-person mechanics. This is 3-person. So single side. So the bench area is to the bottom of the screen. All right. So the single side is over here. Usually a yard or 2 above goal line extended. Not more than that. They are watching the shooter. They're watching the goal, depending on the situation. And then you have the trail. in a 3-person game, me as trail, depending on the speed of the game, what's going on, the teams that are playing, I might be pulled in a little bit closer to the restraining line there. If it's a back and forth game, the ball is just moving back and forth, up and down, up and down the field, up and down the field, I might cheat a little bit and stick out where this tee is. But for the most part, I'm going to be sucked in a little bit more. Substitutions, they're watching the box. They're watching the over and back. And if that ball starts to get close to that midline, move up to the midline, straddle that midline. So if it goes over, everyone in that stadium knows that guy saw it. All right. So make sure you're up on that midline for over and back. And then you're watching the shooter. 2 guys should be watching the shooter in 3-person mechanics. If you're in 2-person mechanics, that trail has got to watch the shooter. And you'll have to learn how to do this. This is not an easy thing to do because you are used to watching the shooter and the ball go in the net or the ball go in the end line and miss, whatever the case may be. You have to put that aside as the trail, and you have to watch what the shooter does. Because if the shooter shoots, right, ball goes in the goal, and defenseman comes in and just clears him out after the fact, and no one's watching it, no one knows what happens. This kid flies through the air, and no one knows how that happened and who was responsible for that. It's bad business. The trail has to watch the shooter at all times, all right? So that if he gets popped after the fact, we can make that call and be comfortable in that call. So a couple guys watching the shooter. That lead, depending on where the ball is going to be way in further than that. We can talk about that if you want a little bit later. Goal crease privileges. Who gets that stuff? Goalie has privileges and protections in the crease if he maintains continuous contact with at least 1 foot on the interior of the goal crease, right? Foot's on the line, he's fine. Foot's a blade of grass outside that line of that crease, he is no longer protected by the crease, and we need to be able to see that. Defenseman jumps in the crease. He doesn't have the same privileges that the goalkeeper has. We must protect the goalies at all costs. I was a backup goalie in youth or middle school and high school lacrosse. Having that background, I am very protective of goalies. And so we all need to be that protective of goalies because there's typically in some of these teams, particularly down here in the South and even some teams up in the North, they only have 1 keeper. So if that kid gets hurt, it's gonna be a delay. It's just bad business. We need to protect those goalies, but at all costs, please. Knowing the rules, who's allowed to move in and out of the crease, right? Knowing that the defenseman, if he catches the ball in the crease or he scoops the ball out of the crease, he can be in the crease of the ball. He can't carry the ball into the crease. No one can carry the ball into the crease. Offensive players can go after a loose ball in the crease. They can go after a loose ball under a goalie's stick if it's outside the crease. Those kinds of things. Just familiarizing yourself with all those different situations and the rights and the wrongs of them. The goalie's got to be properly equipped at all times. This is I think it's a new rule and point of emphasis this year. If that goalie loses any equipment outside the crease, it's an immediate stoppage of play. Immediate stoppage of play. Drops a glove, whatever. He's got to have that stuff on. Keep it on for play to continue. Crease violations. This is the big ESPN SportsCenter moment. And if you see somebody going to crease, particularly in a highly contested game, in a close game, in a heated moment, you've got to call it. And you've got to emphasize that you saw it, right? And it's not just a tweet, it's in the crease, going that way. You got to sell it, right? This is our SportsCenter moment. If he's in the crease, I'm going to blow my whistle. I'm going to point to where I saw his foot touch the crease, and I'm going to give a big point to the other direction. Okay? We need to sell that call. If you see somebody on the crease, you've got to sell it. Again, if it's just someone just passing through the crease, all right, blow the whistle, blues in the crease, going the other way. If it's a goal situation, if it's a one-on-one with a defenseman, you got to sell it. Okay? And knowing the dive rules. This is huge. You don't see it a lot in high school spring season. A lot of guys will push the limits in summer tournaments. because they don't typically use NFHS rules. They use college rules, in which in some cases dives are allowed. And so high school, we don't see it a lot. Summer tournaments, you can see it. And know those rules. So if a guy leaves his feet in order to shoot, pass, whatever, and even if it's away from the goal, it's stoppage of play, it's illegal, right? And so if it goes in the goal and he's left his feet before he shot, it's no goal, turn the ball over. If he leaves his feet and is hit, either legally or illegally, it doesn't matter. It's a stoppage of play. If the ball goes in, it's a no goal. Got to turn that over and go the other way. If he runs into the crease after he shot, right? He didn't dive. He shoots. His own momentum takes him into the crease. As long as he enters the crease after the ball goes in the goal, it's a good goal. Okay. I'm trying to think what else. If he is planted outside the crease and shoots, and then someone comes along and pops him, either cleanly or illegally, and the ball goes in, it's still a goal, right? As long as he was grounded prior to and during the shot, before that ball goes in, we're good to go. Goalie interference. Interference. You know what this looks like. If the goalie's got the ball and he's hit in any way with a stick, or if his stick is contacted in any way, it's immediate interference. We pull the ball out. It can be a play on in some cases. Again, knowing those rules about when it is and isn't an interference call, whatever. Typically, if he's bringing the ball up and isn't an active throwing, he hits the attackman hits his stick. I'll give a play on if he bobbles it or whatever. If he maintains possession, we're just going to play it out. If he's in the act of throwing the ball in some way and it makes contact with a stick or helmet or shoulder pads or something, that's interference and it's a free clear. And just, again, making sure you familiarize yourself and anticipate, right? If that attackman is standing there and he's 6'5" and the goalie is 4'2", and he's got his stick up in the air and the goalie's like trying to see around him and he can't, and he throws it, there's a difference there. And you can tell the difference typically of if he's just firing the ball at the kid, which is not legal. If he's trying to make that outlet pass and he makes contact with that attackman, you know to call interference and it's a free clear. Goal scorer, loose ball pass. Yeah, this is a new point of emphasis or a new situation this year. The ball must be propelled into the goal for it to count, right? And that is a shot, an errant pass, kicking the ball, raking the ball into the goal, whatever. And the point of emphasis there is if I'm the keeper and I have the ball in my stick and I bring the stick back into the goal and I break the plane of the goal, it's not a goal, right? I think it's a goal in soccer. Don't quote me on that. But if I'm in lacrosse, I have my stick back like this, I'm getting ready to throw, and the ball has broken the plane, it's not a goal. If I bring the stick back as the goalie and I drop the ball, it's also not a goal, right? The ball wasn't propelled into the plane of the goal, through the plane of the goal. And so that's going to be a hard call to sell, but it's not a goal. It wasn't kicked. It wasn't raked. It wasn't shot. It wasn't passed. It wasn't any of those things. He dropped the ball in the goal. It's no goal, right? And then this one they changed, I don't know, a bunch of years ago at this point. But if I'm getting ready to shoot and it's counting down 3, 2, 1, as long as I get that shot off, that ball is released, right, out of my stick prior to zeros, it's still active. If it goes in, it's a goal. It took some real thought to, particularly that first year or two that this rule was in place. You see zeros or you hear the horn and you blow your whistle, which makes it dead, right? If he shoots, time ends and I blow my whistle before it enters the goal, it's a no goal, right? So we need to be real mindful of not blowing our whistle until that ball has either been saved, been knocked off another player, an offensive or defensive player, and it goes in the goal is a no goal. And all this is outlined in the rule book. So make sure you're reading it through, because I'm not going to hit them all. But if he shoots, time runs out, it hits off the post and goes in the goal, it's a goal. Hits off the goalie and goes in the goal. If it bounces off the post, hits the defenseman and goes in the goal, it's no goal. Right? So there's a lot of those different situations. Just read through them. In this case, if something like this happens and you are the lead and you are like, I have no idea what just happened, blow your whistle, make no signal, right? Don't say yes, don't say no goal. Blow the whistle, go talk to your partner and talk it through. All right, Jim, this is what happened. It went here, it did this, it did that. And you talk it through. Like, okay, I did that. Yep, that's a goal. And then you can put your arms up, it's a goal. You talking with Jim and he's like, hey, it hit this, hit that. And you're like, nope, it hit the post, it hit a player, and then went in the goal. It's no goal. So make sure you're talking that through a little bit and getting it right. Goal not scored. Horn has sounded to end the period before a shot has been released, right? So it's zeros. He fires the ball. Doesn't matter. Play is dead. No goal. Whatever. Horn sounds. Shot has been taken. Ball touches an offensive player. Not a goal, right? And a picture that doesn't demonstrate that at all. Goal not scored, foul. Attacking team has a foul on them. Play on, a flag, whatever. No goal. The scorer's cross is found to be illegal. No goal. Contact is made with the goalie, goal post, goal net. The shooter who scored pulls his strings, right? The old pull strings. No goal in all those cases. Dive plays is not illegal under NFHS rules. Can't leave your feet prior to a shot. If the player is contacted illegally, goal cannot count. Penalty is assessed. If player is contacted legally, it's a turnover, right? They've been in the crease, whatever. It's a turnover, goalie ball, defense ball, whatever. We're going the other way. No goal. And that's it. So that is a lot. I am going to, I'm going to leave the recording going. I will take questions that you may have. I know we're over time by a few minutes. Hopefully you're okay with that. And yeah, fire away with questions if you have any, and I will we'll keep the recording going. Questions, hit me. Or are y'all asleep?
You can't kick a ball to the goal?
I'm sorry? You kick? Yeah, absolutely. You can kick a ball right into that goal. Yeah, it's the only time you can't kick something is another guy's cross, right? So if I'm trying to scoop, right, and you come in and you kick my stick or try to kick through my stick, it's illegal procedure, going the other way. But yeah, if the ball is 2 yards, 3 yards, 10 yards outside the goal and I kick it as hard as I can, I'm a star soccer player and I kick that ball and it goes in, it's a goal. What other questions do you have? All right. If none, feel free to email me anytime. I'm happy that I can put my email in the chat in case you don't have it. I think I was on that email that Greg sent earlier today. Feel free to email me. I'll put my phone number in the chat as well. I'm going to stop recording at this point.